Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and welcome to part 3 of my video series where I take a look at every single reference on the back of this shirt that Esabelle and her sister made for me for my birthday. I know it's a long time coming, but it's really a matter of I gotta have a space and the availability to be able to film. So without further ado, today we're going to be looking at my 2012 mission trip. This was the infamous year where the Minnesota people came back when they were at the camp last year, and that took up a majority of the good memories that I had at this camp. But surprisingly, there's not a whole lot of explicit memories straight to Minnesota, so a lot of these are just going to be fun little nods to the camp in general. So let's get going. The first reference we have is hippies and hula hoops. I spelled it as hypes and hula hoops in my notes, so I don't know what I was thinking there. Every year, or at least most of the years, I think they stopped doing it around 2016, Catholic Heart Work Camp would have a mascot character come onto the stage and use it as like a theme of talking about the service that we did, as well as designating someone to clean or a parish group to clean the cafeteria, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, for instance, Mr. Rogers was the mascot in our first mission trip, and he would come on and talk about how to be a good neighbor, and he would say these are the parishes that were the best good neighbors at the camp, and show like a bunch of pictures of their work site. Second year was the Candy Man, where he'd talk about what was the sweetest, and then he'd also do candy trivia where he'd throw candy bars into the audience. This year it was the hippie. Now keep in mind that one of the adult chaperones in our group was a traveling hippie slash hobo slash whatever they're called. He hitchhiked across North America and he claimed that he used to be a hippie. And so when he saw how she acted on the stage, he's like, that's not how hippies actually acted. That's very inaccurate. He enjoyed the trip other than that. He said it was one of the highlights of his life. So what she did was she came onto the stage dancing and beating the tambourine, and she had a certain saying that she liked to do every time she came on. She would say, and I'm probably going to have a recording over this so that you can hear it in her words, not mine.
Because hippies are aware. If you want to find your inner hippie, you have to be groovy with the work camp hippie philosophy. Hippies choose peace, want to change the world, stand up, speak out, give back, and we love to hula hoop. Why? Because love makes the world go round. Why? Because love makes the world go round.
Now, the hippie that you're seeing on the stage was not the same one that was at our particular camp, but the general message of what she was trying to say in the whole skit was a nationwide thing. And I thought that was one of the most memeable moments of the whole camp, and I'm surprised there aren't more YouTube videos talking about it. Next we have South Detroit. Now the Michigan people were extremely particular about how the song Don't Stop Believin' was supposed to be sung, because as most people who have studied Michigan's geography would know, there's no such thing as South Detroit. It's more of like a West and East Detroit. And the people who wrote Don't Stop Believin' weren't actually from Michigan, so they didn't know that fact. So whenever the line came where it said born and raised in South Detroit, the Michiganders stood on their seats and belted out South Detroit. And at one of the camps, I don't think it was this one. I think it was the one afterward. One of the Michiganders uh, stood up again when the song came up and said, "There is no South Detroit, it's Windsor." And so the Michigan people kind of like made a name for themselves in regards to their insistence on making sure that CHWC knew their geography. Next we have the reverse poem. I've shown this poem so many times throughout all of the various mission trip videos that I did, and I'm going to show it again, because basically what made this poem so cool is that you start out reading it in this very pessimistic tone, like, God cares for people? You kidding me? Look at all this terrible stuff that's going on. But when each line of the poem is read from the bottom to the top, it ends up changing the whole meaning of the poem so that it's actually an affirmation of God's goodness. So,
evil things men do. God can't hear us. You're wrong when you say God can, but I know we can fix things on our own. Don't be fooled into thinking God cares. Or maybe it's time to look at things another way. God cares. Don't be fooled into thinking we can fix things on our own, but I know God can. You're wrong when you say God can't hear us. The evil things men do continue to ignore, God won't. Foolishness? Is it foolishness to believe in Him? What causes so many to suffer so much? Mankind wouldn't allow a loving God to truly lead them. Make no mistake, His followers will one day extinguish the fighting, the hate, the violence. Can't you see that we can hope in Him? I refuse to believe that God doesn't care about people. No. The truth is, God cares for you.
The whole audience literally was cheering with excitement when we first saw that reverse poem. I'm pretty sure CHWC showed it again in a subsequent year, but the reaction to it this year was by far the best that I've seen of all the times that I've shown this. And Esabelle has since told me that she actually knows of the church that put on this poem in the first place. So that's a neat little touch that I don't think she realized when she was choosing the words on this shirt. After the reverse poem, we have Yashi! We had an adult chaperone in our group who was not particularly fussy about following the rules. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Esabelle ever made a follow-up t-shirt where it was just about the things that he did. And I think there's another one later on this list, but the deal was that he wanted to bring his Game Boy Advance with him, and he was absolutely insistent that he not just live in the moment, but you know what? I gotta play my Game Boy Advance. And I would always tell him, okay, so the rules of the camp are that if you have a music player or a video game system, you have to have headphones because that's rude. You're supposed to be enjoying the moment, loving the service, not engrossed into stuff that you brought from your previous lifestyle. And for the most part, he was pretty good at obeying that until Lights Out came. And then right as we were about to go to sleep, he turned the volume all the way up on his Game Boy Advance and we heard, Yashi! And then he giggled and said, Good night, everyone. You know, I'm honestly kind of surprised that Esabelle didn't put Justin's creepy alarm clock on here because that was another great ism. Well, if she didn't put it on here, I'm going to talk about it. Another thing that happened at night was that Justin was very particular about making sure that he woke up at a very specific time so that he would have exactly the right amount of time to get ready. And so he had his alarm set, and at one point, I think it was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, we heard this really weird alien-like sound that sounded something like, and it kept going. I think it went for like a full hour straight before one of us, pretty sure it was me, because I was, the rule follower of the group, went and was like, Justin, what is the deal with your alarm clock? Justin was really annoyed at us. He was like, why didn't you guys wake me up? And we said, how did you not wake up? The rest of us were woken up by that creepy thing. Well, she couldn't include everything, but at least I included it to make up for her blunder. Next we have the Ish Center. This is a joke that I have to say very carefully because there's a lot of heartache involved in it. So the short version of the story is that there were two teenagers in our group who had crushes on each other, but their parents, specifically the parents of the girl, didn't allow them to actually call themselves boyfriend and girlfriend and had like very strict restrictions on what they could and couldn't do. So like they knew that they wanted to be a couple, but yet they weren't allowed to call it official. So the other teenagers in the group referred to them as ishes because they'd say your boyfriend ish and your girlfriend ish because they were only sort of boyfriend and girlfriend. So they were called the ishes. And so when we got to the camp, we were staying at the, what was it called? Parish Activity Center, but the letters PAR weren't working on the sign, so it just said Ish Center. So we said, hey, look, it's you guys. You're the Ishes. And they got a picture underneath everything. That was pretty funny. Unfortunately, they didn't end up getting married. They both got married to other people It was a pretty messy breakup that I won't get into the details, but they've forgiven each other. I think they've hung out a few times afterwards to like really show that they're willing to move on. And from what I can tell, they're both relatively happy in their marriages, so at least it had somewhat of a happy ending. Next we have Call Me, Maybe. This was the closing skit that the staff members put on as like a farewell to the camp, where they said the words of Carly Rae Jepsen's song but didn't actually sing it out. Now, the pauses in there between Call Me and Maybe is a callback to one of the staff members in particular, Ryan Beck, who was so iconic he got an entire song dedicated to him by the musician Lee Rossler. I believe the song went, Ryan Beck, what you know about that? Just know that I got your back forever. And that was like the only loop, and we just kept singing it over and over again, but it definitely made that musician pretty memorable. And he was the one who said with a really deep voice,
and all the other boys try and chase me, but here's my number, so call me maybe.
and instead of taking my word for it, I actually found the video on YouTube, so enjoy.
I threw a wish in the well. Don't ask me, I'll never tell. I looked to you as it fell, and now you're in my way.
I'd trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, but now you're in my way.
Your stare was holding. Ripped jeans skin was showing. Hot night wind was blowing. Where do you think you're going, baby?
Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe?
It is hard to look right at you, baby, but here's my number, so call me maybe.
Hey, I just met you, but this is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
And all the other boys try and chase me, but here's my number, so call me maybe.
Before you came into my life, I missed you so bad. I missed you so bad. I missed you so bad.
Before you came into my life, I missed you so bad. And you should know that. I missed you so bad.
Hey, I just met you. This is crazy, but here's my number, so call me, maybe.
Before you came into my life,
I missed you so bad.
And you should know that.
So call me maybe.
The next story we have is the Forbidden Swimming Pool. This year, there were no on-site showers that the teens and adult chaperones were able to use. There were technically on-site showers, but those were reserved for the staff members. Everyone else had to go off-site to a shower facility that was closer to the workplace. Now, in my particular case, we had, I believe, 32 girls and only 6 males on the entire team, and that was including female adult chaperones and males as well, so the males were very much outnumbered, and that has its own legendary stories that, you know, she forgot to put that one on there too. Esabelle, get a better memory. Shame on you. That was the shower area where the 3 adult chaperones waited outside while the 6 teenage guys went in the showers, and they were taking so long that one of the adult males pounded on the door and he shouted, "What are you guys doing in there? Putting on makeup?" But that was my side of the story. Then we go to one of the other adult chaperones, the same one who did Yoshi. and we will see what he managed to do. Now keep in mind, adult chaperones are supposed to be the paragons of virtue, the ones that the teenagers look to as setting an example for how they're supposed to behave. But he was impatient when it came time to taking a shower. So instead of just going into the shower like everyone else did, he found a swimming pool, because I believe the place where his particular group went was to the YMCA, and he just jumped in the swimming pool in his dirty clothes and all, and just used the swimming pool to clean himself off. Now, I don't remember if he had a spare set of clothes or not so that he could get out of all that mess, but I feel really sorry for the people that had to clean that pool. I'm surprised he went to as many mission trips as he did. He was good at escorting the teens and being positive, but he certainly wasn't the guy that you would go to say, these are the rules, you better follow them. That was more of what I did. Next we have bluegrass. And this was a tradition that kept going throughout all the rest of the camp, but I'm pretty sure it started here. So the staff members would put on an instructional video showing us what to do and all the various what ifs that could come up on the work sites. Like they'd say, what if it rains? What if you get lost on the way to the work site? And one of the instructions in that video was what to do after you're done painting. And so to avoid there being too much of a mess in the grass, one of the jokes in the video was, no one likes bluegrass unless it's bluegrass. Now, in 2018, I actually laughed at that. I think I was the only person that laughed. No, scratch that. There was one girl who laughed so loud that the staff members called her out on it. They said, oh wow, we didn't think our jokes were that funny. And that's exactly what she was known for, was she was the girl that laughed. No one else would get the jokes, and she would just have such a loud and carrying laugh. She was the same girl that I mentioned in my 2018 mission trip video, where she ended up having to go to the hospital because she got a piece of glass lodged in her leg, and it made it so that she could hardly walk. And so while she was in the hospital, we didn't hear her laughs anymore, and everyone there was just like, we better pray for this girl. And thankfully our prayers were answered right after we finished with Eucharistic adoration. So that's a nice little comeback. I'm jumping all over the place today with these camps. I need to focus. Next we have the cute seminarian. Now he actually did appear in the Call Me Maybe skit that I said, but just in case you weren't paying attention, there was one particular staff member named Isaac that literally all of the girls had a crush on. And so at the very end of the camp, he finally said, guys, I just wanted to say that I've been discerning God's will, and I think God is calling me to the priesthood. And every single girl in the audience was like, aww. And I think it was not the aw that's so cute, it was the aw man, he's so cute. Next up we have Zumi Zume. Zumi Zume was a game that the Minnesota people made popular because there were, I believe, 96 of them. One of the camps it was 93, the others it was 96. By far the biggest group of people out of any of the parishes put together. So many that in the previous year when we had envelopes for affirmation notes, they took up an entire side of the rack and the rest of us had the other side. And so this year, after they were finished with their group discussions, they set up this humongous table in the cafeteria where they just played this game where they would like slap their legs, clap their hands, and keep it in a rhythm saying zoomy zoomy, zoomy zoomy, and then like point to someone else, say a number really quick, then that person would have to respond and point to another person. And it was such utter pandemonium that that was like the big thing that they were known for, besides just there being so many of them. And the camp staff members, they were trying so hard to enforce the rules, but even they couldn't resist the charm of this. So they came into the cafeteria and they saw the group playing the game. They pointed to the adult leader of the group and they said, you do know that you guys have to start going to bed soon, right? And the adult leader, I remember his name is Pat, he said, can we just do one more round just for fun? And they were like, you know what, we can't resist. Go ahead and do one more round. And they did that on the way back from the work site too. I had quite a lot of Minnesota people on my, I don't want to say work team, because like there were work teams and work groups, but there were a bunch of people that came together to work at the horse ranch that I was at, and most of them were Minnesota people, and they played the Zoomy Zoome game when they were in the back room waiting for everyone else to finish taking a shower. And the final one we have here is Theology on Horseback, which I think a lot of people found to be probably the highlight of the whole camp when I released my Facebook note, because my friend Jen commented, "Oh my gosh, Paul, that was so sweet of you." So what happened was we were working on a horse ranch, as I mentioned in the earlier memory. But part of our duty, besides like just the regular like menial ranch stuff, was also making sure that if the kids that were at the ranch, because it was called Copper Top Life Learning Center, I believe that's what it was called. There were kids there who had special needs that would like be able to play soccer, they'd be able to ride on horses, and they would have like their own curriculum of things. And sometimes we were told like, hey, go and help out the kids with whatever they need. So one of the girls, her name was Abby, she was riding the horse, and me and one of the other adults that worked at the ranch were helping guide her along. And so as we were riding, I did what I usually do at Catholic Heart Work Camp, which is talk about God. What a great way to end this, by the way. I didn't even realize that, but yeah, that's a great final memory we have. And so I was just telling her a bunch of things about God. Of course, I was making sure to keep it so that she could understand it, as opposed to the more high level stuff I could tell the high schoolers. And I don't remember every single thing that I said, but one of the things I said was, God made you beautiful, but as you get older, people are going to try to tell you otherwise. So I want you to never forget how beautiful God made you, and remember that always. Now, obviously, I never saw this girl again. But hopefully she's probably, so that was in 2012, so she'd probably be a teenager by now. I hope that if she's in that turbulent time of her life where she's like being bombarded with hormones and peer pressure, that maybe, just maybe, she remembered that horseback session that she had with me in July of 2012 and can say, well, that Paul guy taught me how to be beautiful. And if she doesn't, hopefully you guys can pray for her and just say, I hope that random girl that Paul helped ride a horse in 2012 can remember that she's beautiful. So that about wraps it up for 2012's trip, which was one of the best, if not only for the fact that the Minnesota people were here. Hope you liked this trip down memory lane. Let me know what you think of the shirt. Let me know what you think of the memories. Did you get some good laughs? Did you get some good insights? Do you like the skits and the pictures and all that I put up? Let me know down in the comments either way. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!